Who's letting them into the wait? Who's moving them from the waiting room into the main room? Okay, we're good to go.
Yes.
Okay, and we can just monitor the waiting room to let people in if they need to be let in. All right, folks, we're going to get started, and good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are. And welcome to today's NARF Projects Grantee Orientation session. We want to, of course, thank you for taking the time to join us today, and we're very delighted to be welcoming the successful grantees of the 2024-2025 NARF Projects Funding Program for this session. We want to offer congratulations first and just say that we're really looking forward to working with all of you in the coming year. My name is Shannon Ryan, and I'm the Director of Community Investment here at the CRF. And of course, I'm joined by other members of the Community Investment team today, including our Associate Director of Community Investment, Ibrahim Agay, our Partnerships Managers, Sharon, Leon, and Dalal, and our Admin Assistant, Harman. Of course, you know that our partnerships managers play a key role in the assessment and review of applications and in the coordination of our National Anti-Racism Fund. And of course, our partnerships managers today will walk you through our granting and contracting process. I'd also like to introduce our amazing regional coordinators and our regional director, Jamal, Rodney, and Diane. They play an essential role in monitoring projects and supporting you all in the delivery of your program over the coming year. And of course, they'll be reintroduced to you later in today's session. And they will walk you through our monitoring process. Also joining us today is Neil Santamaria, our Quebec Regional Director, who will work with projects to be delivered in that province. And a big thanks to Neil for joining us today. Now, before we jump in, of course, a few things to address. Of course, I want to start today's meeting by acknowledging that the land that I'm speaking to you from is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and of course, the Mississaugas of the Credit. These lands continue to be home to diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities who have cared for and protected and have been stewards and caretakers of these lands for tens of thousands of years. I also want to acknowledge that Toronto, where the CRF main office and I are located today, is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaties with the Mississaugas and the Chippewa First Nations. That said, I think it's always important to acknowledge, I should say, sorry, that acknowledgement alone is not enough. And, you know, the naming of the treaties and the nations and the histories of these lands is, I would say, only one element of our shared work towards reconciliation, towards justice and liberation. And it's essential that we, of course, recognize and uphold always in our work the inherent sovereignty rights, and self-determination of Indigenous people, and that we continue to confront the ongoing impacts of colonization and systemic racism. Now, it's in this spirit as well that I also want to recognize the Indigenous elders, leaders, knowledge carriers, or community members who may be present here today and who also may contribute to the work of the CRF. Your wisdom and advocacy and leadership are vital to our shared path forward in this work. And finally, I just want to say, of course, that we're grateful to be working with all of you and all of our Indigenous partners and to be working and living on these lands that we share. On to business as well. Of course, we'd like to inform you that today's session will be recorded and shared by email following the session so that you can refer to the recording if need be. Today's session will be delivered in English, and the same session will be delivered in French tomorrow. So if you're more comfortable engaging in French, if you'd like to attend the session in French in addition to today's English session, you should feel more than welcome to sign up for that session. Now, before we jump in, I'd again like to thank all of you for joining us, firstly on short notice. I think we recognize that you're all very busy folks working in very busy organizations, and we really appreciate that you have made the time to join us today for this conversation and for this information session. I have to say that we're really looking forward to working with you to deliver on these essential projects over the next 12 months or so, and to getting to know, and finally, and perhaps most importantly, to getting your grant agreement signed by the end of March. Of course, again, we're excited to work with you, and we're excited about the work that will be achieved through these projects over the coming year. In this round of NARF projects funding, we're investing a total of $2.1 million in a total of 30 initiatives that will be delivered in every province and territory. And it's on behalf of the entire team that I'd like to say that we look forward to working with you to advance our shared work concerning anti-racism and to delivering on these projects. Now, with all of that said, I will hand it over to our partnerships manager, Sharon, who will go through the agenda and will deliver the first half of this presentation to you. Over to you, Sharon.
Thanks, Shannon. Next slide, please. Thank you. So today's objectives are to provide you with key information to support you with your grant administration and project delivery. And as we will introduce and explain later on in the presentation, each grantee will be assigned a regional staff who will be there as key support and a guide throughout the delivery of your project. Slide, please. So for the agenda, first we will review the information needed to set up and finalize your grant agreements. Our goal here is to ensure that the processing of your grant agreements and payments is efficient so that you can begin your project activities without delay. To inform each organization's grant agreement, we require you to fill in the provided grantee information form provided in your congratulatory email. Each section of the form speaks to sections of the grant agreement and will help us draw up your agreement. I recommend keeping the information form open or nearby for reference as we discuss each section. And following that, our regional coordinator, Rodney, will introduce the regional staff and share some helpful information on how we ask grantees to track, monitor, and report on project activities. And then we'll conclude the presentation with some time for questions. So the first section is for grantee information. Where you're required to fill in all relevant organization and contact information. So while the information this chart is asking for is straightforward, please note the following instructions. And on the right, there's also the section for reference. The organization name should be the name of the organization that was provided on your grant application. Ensure that the name matches your organization's official documentation and funding application. Indicate if your organization is registered under federal or provincial jurisdiction. If your organization is registered under federal jurisdiction, please enter Canada for jurisdiction. If your organization is registered under provincial jurisdiction, please specify the province. And please ensure that this information matches your organization's legal registration. Also in this section, please ensure that all contact information of address, email, name of primary contact is current and accurate. And note also that the address of the organization cannot be a PO box. Sorry, next slide, please. And on the screen here, you can see how the form will be informing these sections of the grant agreement in terms of organization and contact information and on the right and on the bottom. Next slide, please. Thank you. And in section 2, this is referring to Schedule A. And in the project description section, provide a brief description of your project. Include details such as project objectives, key activities, expected outcomes, and expected number of participants. More suggestions are also provided in the information form itself, as you can see below. Please ensure the description aligns with the goals you outlined in your application. And again, this section will be informing the Schedule A in the grant agreement as seen on the right of the screen. Next, in the project schedule section, please include the project timeline in accordance with key project milestones. Include specific dates or months for key project activities, your project launch, and evaluation. Ensure that the timeline is feasible and matches the project scope. This section will also be informing Schedule A in the grant agreement. Slide, please. And finally, the project budget. Please fill in the budget chart according to the expenses of your project. The budget must equal the total amount awarded by the CRF. Please refer to the congratulatory email to confirm the awarded amount. Please also ensure accuracy and be as detailed as possible. And this section will be informing the last portion of Schedule A in the grant agreement, as seen on the right as well. In Schedule B, this section, you'll be confirming to public acknowledgement of CR funds by using the provided text and logos by selecting yes or no, as well as providing links to your organization's social media. As you can see by the side-by-side, this section will be informing Schedule B of the agreement. And the dispute resolution. This section asks for the name, title, and email of the authorized representative of the organization who will be responsible for resolving any disputes related to the agreement. If this individual is the same as the primary contact in section 1, you only need to check off the yes box. If the answer is no, please provide the information related to this individual. And to note, this is typically an individual in a senior position in your organization, for example, a board chair or the ED, etc. And this section will inform sections 14.223 in the grant agreement, as seen on the bottom right. In the last section, authorization and signature, please sign this section with the authorized representative's name, title, and signature, and date with the date signed. Ensure the signature is from the correct individual with signing authority, and the same individual who signs here must be the same individual who signs the final grant agreement. And final steps. Review the information form to ensure all sections have been filled out and that the information is accurate. Prepare an invoice for the first installment and ensure the invoice totals 40% of your approved grant amount, and that your organization's physical address and logo are included on this invoice as well. The organization name and physical address on the invoice must match the organization name and physical address on the information form. And email the completed form and invoice to our admin assistant, Harmon, at hmogusu@crf-scr.ca with a subject heading that includes your applicant's ID and organization name by or before March 13th at 5 p.m. ET. And next, once we have received the grantee's completed information sheet and invoice, we will put together the grant agreement with the filled-in sections for you to review, to insert your signature, and send back. Again, please have the individual who signed the information form sign the grant agreement. And please send your signed agreement before or by March 17th, 5 p.m. ET. CRF will then send the finalized grant agreement signed by all parties, so CRF as well as the organization, back to the grantee. CRF will introduce the grantee to their regional coordinator. The grantee will receive a check for their first payment by mail within approximately 2 weeks of CRF receiving the final grant agreement and invoice. Again, please ensure the mailing address provided is not a PO box. And if you have any questions or concerns about completing the grant agreement, please email our grants inbox at grants@crf-fcr.ca. And I will now turn it over to Rodney, who will introduce himself and the regional coordinators and director who will be supporting you with admin and implementation of your projects.
Thank you, Sharon. My name is Rodney Small. I'm the regional coordinator for Atlantic Canada, and I have the humbling honor to introduce you to the other regional coordinators, Ayan Ismail, regional coordinator for BC, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and the Prairies and Nunavut, and Jamal Killamee Boyce, regional coordinator for Ontario, and Neil Santa Maria, regional director for Quebec. Next slide, please. In this session, we will cover key processes and requirements for managing your grant effectively. Here's a quick overview of what we'll discuss. Grantee expectations, what's required of you throughout the grant period, key processes, how to manage your grant, track progress, and report outcomes, resources and contacts, where to find additional support, and who to reach out to for guidance on your charitable project. Next slide, please. Any changes to Schedule A of the grant agreement or the term of the agreement require a NARF agreement amendment. This includes updates to the following: project description, activities, deliverables, budget categories, timeline, for example, extensions beyond the contract completion date, legal organization name, change of financial trustee. If an organization requests an amendment, a signing authority from the organization must submit an email rationale with an explanation/justification for the change. The coordinator or program manager responsible for project oversight will then require and submit for approval a CRRF signed copy of the charitable grant amendment will then be sent back to you via email. Next slide, please. As outlined in the charitable grant agreement, public recognition of CRRF is required. The grantee shall publicly acknowledge the grant received from the grantor in all communication materials and promotional activities related to the charitable project, such as advertising, promotional and program materials, public announcements, speeches, website, and social media. Please be sure to tag CRRF in these posts. Additionally, please use the proper CRF logo in all materials. These resources are available for you to download. Next slide, please. The grantee shall provide grantor with the address of all social media accounts: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, or others, in a timeline in which the grantee publishes information related to the charitable project, if applicable. Additionally, please note that you must notify your regional coordinator or program manager of any charitable projects 4 weeks to 6 weeks in advance. While it is not required for a CRRF staff member to attend, you must still share registration or invitation details with us. We will do our best to attend or have a board member participate. Next slide, please. An interim report must be completed and submitted on SurveyMonkey Apply by the date indicated on your information form. Coordinators will review interim reports to ensure the following requirements are met. Report must be complete and have accurate activities and deliverables. Financial proof an interim amount of grant has been expended upon the charitable project in accordance with the terms of the agreement. Invoice for 40% of the installment of the funds for interim report. The interim payment will be processed upon review of the interim report by the regional coordinator. Please allow 3 to 4 weeks to receive your interim check via mail. Next slide, please. A final report must be completed and submitted within 60 days of the completion of the project. Key requirements. Report must be complete and accurate, activities and deliverables, financial proof that 100% of the grant has been expended upon the charitable project in accordance with the terms of the agreement, invoice for the final 20% of installment of funds for the final project report. If the grantee does not submit the final report by the deadline, 60 days after the contract completion date, the regional coordinator will send 2 reminder emails and make 1 follow-up phone call before escalating the matter. The final payment will be processed upon review of the final report by the regional coordinator. Please allow 3 to 4 weeks to receive your final check via mail. Next slide, please. Submitting your reports. Log into the SurveyMonkey Apply account. This is the same account you use to submit your application. Locate your project's application ID in the dashboard. Click Start to begin completing your final report. Next slide, please. You will be redirected to a page showing your previous and active task. Under your tasks, click on the interim reporting to begin completing your report. Next slide, please. Similarly, for the final report, you will be redirected to a page showing your previous and active tasks. You can see now that the interim reporting is marked as a complete task prior to the final reporting. Under your tasks, click on Project Final Reporting to begin completing your report. Note, please ensure you click Submit once you have completed your report. If you do not submit, the report will not be received and could be flagged as late. Next slide, please. To ensure that your report is submitted, please remember to click on the green Submit button circled in red on the screen. In step 1, after that Submit button is pressed, you will be brought to step 2, where you will see an application submitted message. And in step 3, this is what you should see on your application screen when submitted successfully. Next slide, please. If grantees do not respond to requests from coordinators or program managers after 2 emails and 1 follow-up phone call, the matter will be escalated to the associate director for further follow-up. Where there are concerns about the reporting or other performance issues, the coordinator or program manager and the appropriate director will meet with the grantee to review the concerns and determine a resolution. Now I will hand it over to Dalal, who will moderate questions and answers. Thank you.
That'll actually be.
Thanks. Thanks, Rodney. Hey, Leon. Yes, just before we get to some questions, you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so a couple things I want to note before we get to questions is that in Schedule A, the project description should reflect the deliverables according to the project approved. And we recognize that there may be some back and forth between organization and us to finalize Schedule A. So the earlier you can accurately complete and submit your form, the better. And we'll have more time to complete your agreement as well. And if you have any questions, please submit it via the button on the screen on the right, bottom right.
I'll take that as the presentation. This has hopefully been clear, but we'll wait as well to see if any questions come in. They might be formulating.
I see Layla Sutherland has raised her hand. Layla, feel free to type in your question in the chat. Shannon?
Oh, sorry, wrong button. Yeah, there's a question,
Okay.
folks.
Yeah, they seem to be coming in. So yeah, the chat is disabled, so any questions that come in will need to be in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We have a couple coming in, which is great. One from Chad. If we were given less money than requested and our project will be scaled back, will this be reflected in Schedule A as it is no longer reflected in the original proposal?
Yes, exactly. And I think the other question we received also refers to the same type of question. So yes, please make sure that your budget is reflected in Schedule A, and it matches the amount that is rewarded to you. And yes, if you need to scale back on any activities, that's fine. Just make sure this is reflected in your description and your timeline as well.
Will we need to consult partners to establish dates for our event? Can the timing be left flexible in the information required by mid-March?
Sharon, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, I was just rereading the question. Yeah, I think you can. Yes, so I think high level is fine for the schedule. If you have a certain month in mind, you can put that in for now, but you will also be in contact with your coordinator for any changes to event dates or project dates.
Can I just clarify, because I'm kind of a bit confused about an event, because we also have an event stream, but all these funded projects, the funded project is for a project that is a year-long project deliverable. And I'm hoping that that event is part of your deliverable that, as Sharon mentioned, should be included in the timeline and can be, changed based on a discussion with your regional coordinator who will be monitoring your grants. So I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about not one event, but an event that is included in deliverable.
Yeah, that's important to know. I think most projects will probably run from sort of April onwards to March 31st of next year and whatnot. But if you have specific events within your project timeline, if you can be precise about the date, that would be great. But as Sharon said, you can also give us a general estimation. So far, I think we've answered all of the questions. We'll see if anything else comes in, but also as Sharon noted, we have our general grants inbox as well, so feel free to reach out to us anytime there if you have questions that pop up, and we'll be more than happy to help you and assist you in this process. So maybe I'll just hand it back to you, Sharon or Shannon, for closing remarks.
Sure. Yeah, we just want to end by again saying thank you for taking the time today. I'm just seeing another question in the survey, a question about SurveyMonkey. If you just shoot us an email at the grants@CRF inbox, someone will respond to you and get you connected to your SurveyMonkey profile. That is not a problem at all. But again, we want to thank you for your time today. As I said at the top of our meeting, we're very much looking forward to working with you over the coming year. I know our regional coordinators and our Quebec director are also very excited to work with you as you deliver your projects and to monitoring the outcomes and to, seeing the successful projects that you'll all deliver with us over the coming year. So with that, we will bring our meeting to a close. Thank you again. And again, this recording will be shared with you if you would like to reference it in the future. Take good care, folks, and have a great day. Bye for now.